Hello and welcome to Michell Consulting's webinar series. Today we're going to be talking about SAP Business One and the production process. For purposes of the demo today, we're using SAP Business One version 8.82. So we're going to get into production. We're going to talk about two things today. We're going to look at the production from a bill of materials standpoint and from a production order, and also functionality which is new in version 8.82, which is the Procurement Confirmation wizard. This allows us to create production orders and purchase orders based on sales orders. So we'll go through both of these today. And again, we're looking at SAP version 8.82. So let's talk a little bit about the production. The first thing we see is the bill of materials. Let's open up a bill of material. So we can see here that we have, and this is what we're going to use today in the demonstration, we have a production type. We have a Lexmark printer here, which is an item. We drill into SAP, we'll see that this item is defined in the master. You can see that it's an inventory item. It is a sell as well as a purchase item. Typically, in a production environment, your bill of materials or your finished product would be an inventory item that allows us to track the quantity. It's also a sales item because we're typically selling the final product. The raw materials or the components are typically used as purchase. Again, for purpose of the demo, we have it set up this way, but in most cases what you would do is, since this is your master or your finished product, this would be set as an inventory item to track the inventory. Also be set up as a sales item, so it could be sold, but it would not be set up as a purchase item because typically we don't purchase this item. We purchase the raw materials in order to build it. Same holds true with the components. If you wanted to, for example, let's say we did not sell these memory chips. We only received them for use of production. We can do the same thing. We would set them as inventory items so we can track the quantities. We would then go in and set that item to be a purchase item and not a sales item. Again, for this purpose of this demo, we have it so we can sell this memory chip. So in the case that you do sell the memory chip separately, you would set it up this way. Okay. We have some types here. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about production. Production means that we're doing is we're going to assemble this. We're going to create a production order. We're going to release that production order. Then we're going to manufacture the product, and we're going to do a receipt of production. The receipt of production, what it'll do is it'll increase the quantity of the finished goods, in this case, the LM4029 Lexmark printer, and it will reduce the subcomponents. So in the example here, if we were to create one of these, you would see that it takes 2 memory chips. So I would reduce my inventory of this memory chip by 2 and the rest by 1. And you can set this up for warehousing. That's a typical production order. You can also do an assembly and a sales, or what a lot of people refer to as a kit. You kind of assemble it. You don't manufacture it and keep it in your warehouse. But if there's somebody who wants to buy it or there's demand, we can kind of do an assembly. So what we do is we set it up to do an assembly. It behaves a little bit different in the issue and back, the issuing methods and so on. You can also do a sales. A sales would be like a kit. A sale would be that we're running a special, so if you buy these 2 products, you would get this product free, so you can set that up. They all behave the same, and you can also do a template. What a template allows you to do is just set the template without corresponding quantities. This, in essence, allows you to kind of build as you go along. So you can have a template, and you can kind of mix match as you go through it because you want to interchange maybe this memory chip for another memory chip and so on. But again, for purposes of today, we're going to just run the production. They all behave the same way, a little bit different how they handle quantities and so on. Typically production is you would do the production order and you would do a receipt of production. The assembly and sales, there's really no production involved as far as running a production order and receipt. Those will be handled at the sales entry. So at time of sales orders, what you would do is then go ahead and grab the components and kind of assemble and sell it as you go along. Let's cancel that. So again, we're going to go through the process of a production order, and we're going to do a receipt of production. This is going to allow us to bring the merchandise in. We're also going to look at an issue for production. This is a kind of a reversal. An issue of production will basically deassemble or take the components apart, and we'll go through that process as well to see. We'll talk about the updates of the pricing, of global pricing. So for example, if you see here that we have some bill of materials, so we have several bill of materials here. Let's look at the first one. And you can see that they're tied to warehouses. They're also tied to price lists. If you saw on out of our other webinars, we talked extensively about how the pricing structure works. So if you want to make a change to a pricing and you had several items, instead of manually going in and changing the pricing, you can use this functionality, which we'll look at today, to update your pricing. So again, here is my bill of materials, and you can see everything that's based on the bill of material. So let's start off real simple. Let's go through. Let's do a production order. Right. We can also see that we have some production orders right here. If we look at our open documents, we can see that we have 23 production orders, and you can see a status of planned and released. You can see the types, which we'll talk about today, as a standard and a disassemble. Again, SAP Business One allows you to just go in and run these reports. You can do a filtering. So if I want to filter and just look at everything that's planned, I can set this up in my rules. I can click, and I'm just looking at plans. If I want to go in and do the same thing, I want to look at everything that's been released. A simple change of the filter, and again, you can see the information. That's standard throughout SAP with all our searches. So let's get in, let's do a simple production order. So we're going to go here, and we're going to look at a production order. And again, we have some types. Okay, today we're going to do a standard production order. A standard production order and a special order behave the same way in the fact that we're actually going to create the order, we're going to release it, and we're going to assemble it. The difference being is that the standard only looks at bill of materials. The special allows you to look at bill of materials and items that are not set up as bill of materials. For whatever reason, you may have items that are not bill of materials that you assemble, or you may produce if you want, but it's not a standard thing you do every day, so you want to do it that way. And then you have the disassemble. Disassemble is if you want to tear the part down, we want components. So we need some parts, we're going to disassemble one, and so on. So let's see. So for example, if we look at standard, we're going to go here and we're going to put a date. And we're going to go here and we're going to click and look at our items. And as you can see, because we chose standard, we're only looking at the list of bill of materials. If we were to choose special, and we would tab on the products, again, we're looking now at all products in the system. So there's a difference between the two. The special allows you to look at your bill of materials as well as all your products, and the standard just allows you to look at bill of materials. So we're going to go to standard. You can see that the status right now is set to planned, and you can see that there's no option. This is because we're creating the production order for the first time. By default, it's set as planned. Once we plan orders, we need to release them to do the receipt of production. So let's choose our item. You can see on stock we have 272. Okay, let's do simple. We're just going to plan one of these, but again, we can plan as many as we want. We want to produce one. We can choose our warehouse. We're just going to use our default warehouse. We can also choose a sales order or customer. This will be evident when we run the procurement, because the procurement is going to actually create production orders based on sales orders. So if we want to link this to one, we could do it here. We can still enter it manually if we want to choose a sales order. Again, we can go here and choose our sales orders. Maybe we don't have it in stock and we need to, somebody special ordered it, we need to make it right away. So we can do it that, or we can just designate it for a customer so we know to keep it to the side when the customer comes in. We can save it that way. Here we're just going to leave it blank. We're going to go ahead, so we're going to do one of these and we're going to add. Again, simple process. Let's go back and take a look. So now you see we have production order 158. You can see the item. You can see the planned quantity is 1, the warehouse, and so on. We can make some changes here if we wanted to in this production order because we're planning here what we want, and we can make some changes to our base. Again, if we need some flexibility, we need to swap out a part, or we need to make a change here, we can also do that. Now that we have the production order added, we can go to the status and we can release. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and release this order, which basically what we're doing is we're releasing it. We're saying, okay, this production order is okay now to produce. Again, everything you see here is controlled with authorizations. Typically what we would do is we would set authorizations for users, give them the authorization to release. I'm logged in as a manager. I have full authorization, but you may want to have the warehouse people not have the option to release. Maybe a warehouse manager or someone the option to release. So we set that to release. We're going to click Update. We can see now that production order 158 has been released. Right? So that's that part. So basically what we did, to recap down, we went in, we created our production order. You can see here, and we released it. So now let's look at receipt of production. Okay, since I'm going to be using these a lot, let me just take these and just kind of drop them in our common functions so I don't have to keep going to the menu. This is a nice function, and again, we do have a webinar if you want to go to our website at www.michellgroup.com. We have webinars on setting up the cockpit. This is a functionality in the version 8 of SAP Business One. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to just kind of drop this stuff here. I'm just going to drag and drop. So I don't need to really worry about selecting from the menu. But again, they are here if I wish. So we're going to go, we did our production order, so let's do a receipt of production. Let's just click on here. And we're going to open up our receipt of production. And again, very simple. We can see here we have a posting date. We can look at production orders. We can also look at return components. We don't have any of those, but we can go here and we can click on production orders. And we see our production order here that we set up, so we're going to go ahead and choose it. And there's our production order. Again, we can still have the concept here. We can change the quantity if we wish. We can also do a receipt of production for more than one production order. Again, we're going to do a simple one, and then we'll show you some more options. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add this. Before we add it, let's take a look at the item. As we saw here in our inventory, we have in stock 272. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add this, so we'll have 273. Simple add. We go back and we take a look here. So now we've added it. We can see it's planned and completed. We can see the quantity. If we go back to the item, we'll see now that we have 273 in stock. And of course, our subcomponents were relieved. There is some effect in the general ledger. This is really for warehousing. Typically, in this case, we're going to see that we're going to see some debits and credits. We're moving stuff between the work in process and the finished goods. But again, here, since we're doing warehouse, this is really on the warehouse level. In this case, we're kind of debiting and crediting the same accounts here because we're using the same accounts for our inventory. And again, this is in a webinar that we've discussed on the GL account determination and setting up your system. Okay, so to recap what we've done so far, we created a production order and we did a receipt of production. So now we're in here, so we can do that. We can also do an issue for production. This is the reversal. A receipt is bringing the merchandise in, and an issue is bringing it out. Maybe we want to disassemble something. We need some component parts. Again, we can go to our production order. Let's do a disassemble. Okay, and again, you can see we can't really change the status. We're going to go in. We're going to select our item. I'm going to choose our same item. So you can see we have 273. And when we're done with the process, we'll have 272. We're just going to disassemble what we just created. Again, we're going to choose it. Let's just put our dates. And again, you can, same options here. You can do it for a particular sales order and so on. Let's just go ahead and add this. So now if we do our issue for production, same principle as a receipt of production, we're just going to do it backwards. So again, we're going to look at disassembled orders here. Don't have any that we've already done. So we're going to go here and we're going to look at our production, and we don't have it. The reason why we don't have it is because we did not release it. Just wanted to show you that little concept there. So let's go back in and release our order. Remember, we need to release the orders from the plan state before they can make an effect. We're going to release this order. We're going to click Update like we did with the regular order. Now we're going to go to an issue production, and we're going to go to disassemble. And again, we can see it here because we've released it. Again, same principle holds true as a receipt of production. We can make any changes we want to do. We're going to simply add this. Again, once we add it, we can't change the document because we're affecting general ledger as well as our inventory components. We're going to come back here. We're going to see that there was an effect in general ledger. We just reversed out what we did on the receipt of production. And of course, now if we look at the item, our quantity went from 273 back to 272. So basically, to recap what we've done so far, we can see our bill of materials is how we set up our corresponding BOMs. Again, we have a few different types. We can do a production, which we're doing today, which is a true bill of materials. What we're doing is we're creating production orders, and we're assembling and manufacturing in the warehouse. So we're taking subcomponents or raw materials to produce a finished good. You can control that in the items themselves. You can set items as we saw here. If you set it for an inventory item, it's going to track the quantities. You can also set it to be a sell item or a purchase item. So in this case, the memory chip can be sold separately, and it can be purchased. If this memory chip was purchased solely for production and not sold as an individual component, we would deselect the sales item. We also have assembly and sales, which work kind of together. What these are, we don't require us to do production, but they're available in the sales order system. We can assemble. What we're doing is we're kind of just putting the item together as we sell it or as it's demand. And sale behaves like a kit. We can set up a sale. We're not really assembling anything. We're just selling it. We're selling these three items as a group. So we're just pulling the items off the shelf as a sale. We can also create a template, which the template allows us to define fixed amounts of items. And we can go ahead and just change the quantity at will as we're selling. So we have that information available here. Again, we saw the production order. Here's where we go in. Remember, we must, for the production order, we need to go in and create it first. So we see here we have one. And you can see that once we plan it, we would have to go ahead and release it for production. If we're done with this order, so for example, we disassemble this order, we can just close the status. Okay, just a way of cleaning it up, so we can just update as closed. So we don't really plan to use that production order again at any time, so you can see it's closed. Once a production order is closed, you notice that everything now is grayed out, so I can't really make any changes to it. For example, this one here, since it's released, even though we ran it, we can use it again or just make some changes to it on the system. So let's look at the procurement method now, how that goes. Now we're going to look with sales. Let's open up our sales orders, and we'll see here we have an order. Let's do it this way. I don't remember what the order was. So we have an order here. I did before. So we have an order for Earth Shaker. You can see we're using that same item, and we ordered 10, and we have a back order quantity of 10. So we have this order here, and what we're going to do is we're going to run the procurement because now we want to create a production order for this sales order. So this is sales order 317. So we're going to use the procurement to create that. We're going to use the Procurement Confirmation wizard. This wizard's also available in the sales. Excuse me, it's in the purchasing. You can also do it here from the purchasing side. And we do have a webinar on that. If you visit our website at mitchellgroup.com, you can see that we have some webinars on how the procurement works from the purchasing side. So here we're going to go, and again, we're going to click and we're going to add our business partner. We can select all business partners if we want, or in this case, I'm just going to use the Earthshaker business partner, because that's what I want to do. I'm just going to go to next. In here, we're looking at all the sales orders for that business partner. We're going to just highlight or select this one here, which was sales order 317. Again, with SAP Business One, I can drill into the order at any time to look at all the information. I'm going to click Next. And again, here we have our target document. Again, by default, it's a production order. Again, the procurement method allows you to create production orders, purchase orders, and purchase quotations. Because I'm running the Procurement Confirmation wizard from production, the default is going to be a production order. If I ran this same program through purchasing an AP, the default would be purchase orders. So we're just going to do this right here. Very simple. We're going to click Next. We have some options. We want to consolidate options for items. We want to maybe we have several orders. We want to create one particular production order. Again, we can see the target. We can see what's happening here. We can see the quantity, what's going to happen when we run this. So you can see here that we created a production order. Production order 160 was created. And we can drill right from here. And we can see that we created production order 160. You'll also notice that this production order, the origin is sales order, and it's linking the information. And let's look at that now. Let's just close this. So now we've created a production order. And this production order has been created through the procurement wizard, so it knows to link it directly to the sales order. So if we call it up here, we can see that this production order, which is brought in, and you can see the planned quantity here is 10 because there was 10 on the sales order. You can see the origin, it's coming from the sales order. You can see the sales order number. So if we click on this, we have our link, so we can see that this was an order for 10. And the customer with Earthshaker, C40,000. And you can see that information here. If we scroll back to the previous ones, you can see that these have an origin of manual. This is nice because we can also, when we do look at our production orders, we can go through and see the difference. These were all manual, which is telling me that I did them as a direct manual production order through the production system, as opposed to this one that came from either sales or it came from the purchasing side. And again, if I look at my production orders, I have the ability here of looking at that type of information here. And again, all the different information as far as the types. So it just allows me to do some filtering and look at the information. So what the procurement did is it created a production order. And the production order is the same. The process now would be the same. We would take this production order. Of course, we need to release it. We have to release it to make it available. So we're going to click Update. It's just telling me it's linked to a sales order. Do you want to continue? That's a nice option because typically what happens is, depending on how you do business, a lot of times the sales order maybe needs to be turned into a delivery, or some payment needs to be take place first. So SAP is just letting you know it's just linked to a sales order. So we're going to say yes. And again, you can see that we've released it. And we're just going to follow the regular flow. We're going to do a receipt of production. Again, we're going to go here, and there it is. And again, we can drill into it any time, and we can see that it was 160, and then we can see the origin and the sales order it came from. I'm just going to go ahead and add it. Again, once we add it, we can't make any changes because we're updating quantity as well as inventory. You can see here we released it, and again, you can see the effects. So that concludes our session today on SAP Business One, the production process. To recap, what we've learned today is that we can create bill of materials for our items. We can create several different types. We can create a production, which is a standard bill of material that we have an item that we build. So in the example we use today, we're using this printer. So we build this printer in our warehouse by using these subcomponents, and it's a standard production order that we're going to produce based on demand or based on how we see working with the system. We can also look at an assembly and a sales. They behave very similar. An assembly and sale works in the same principle, but we don't really run production. We assemble, or we just put the product together as needed, as they're sold. And the sale just allows us to group items. This is typically referred to as kitting or kits. If we have a special. If you get these, you buy this item, you get these other two with it, so you can actually design a kit. And you can create a template. A template's just kind of a blank with some items on it that you can control. The quantities may change, so on, as you see fit. We looked at the production orders. And there's three types of production orders. There's a standard, which is a standard regular order, which we're gonna release and we're gonna produce. There's a special order. The difference between the standard and the special is that when you select the standard, you only can select items that are defined as bill of materials. So you can see I have these 7 items. A special works the same way, except it allows you to choose any item that you have defined in SAP Business One. Your other option is to disassemble. Disassemble means we're taking the component apart because we need to sell the raw materials, or we just need the materials. You have 2 types. Once it's done by default, when an item is, a production order is created, it's created as planned. An order cannot be produced unless it's released. So by default, they're all set as planned. This can be set up in your authorizations in SAP Business One. You can authorize people to release production orders. And again, here you can see this one we just did. You can see that it's that release stage. So it was planned, it was released. Once we released it and ran a production, we can't bring it back to plan. We can leave it at release. When we're finally done, we would actually close the production order. You saw that in the system. And then, of course, the receipt of production is once I release my orders, I would just run the process of doing a receipt of production. What this is going to do, it's going to complete the process. It's going to update the quantity of all the bill of material and all its subcomponents, and it's going to make any corresponding effective general ledger. Again, based on how you have your inventory set up, you can have different inventory, finished goods, and work in process inventory accounts defined by warehouse. So we can set this up if we're moving from one warehouse to another. Again, we just handle that internally with our receipt of production. The issue for production is just the opposite. Okay, we're receiving it, we're bringing it in, so we're creating the finished good. When we issue, we're just basically deassembling or taking it apart. So we have that option to do it that way. You can do it based on a production order, but typically, as a flow, we would specify a disassembled order. Best practice would be that when you actually create the order here, if you want to disassemble, you would just select the disassemble here. You can technically disassemble a standard order if you want, but again, we recommend best practices. It just makes it easier to know what's allocated for disassemble. And again, we have our production reports. As you saw here, we have our bill of materials report, which we can look at our bill of materials. We can expand those and see the subcomponents. This up here a little bit. And you can see the types. You can see these are all production types. If we collapse, we're just getting the units here. And we can do them one at a time if we want to see what makes them up. You have your open items list, which we put over here on the open documents. You can run it from the menu, or you can just run it from the open document list. And then the last thing we looked at was the Procurement Confirmation Wizard. The Procurement Confirmation Wizard, this allows us easy way of doing this depending on our business. In this case, if we have a setup that we don't really produce our finished goods just to put on the shelf, we want to produce them as they're needed or as there's orders, we can do the Procurement Confirmation Wizard. The Procurement Confirmation Wizard allows us to go in and we can select a range of customers, or we can even do all customers if we wish. Bring everybody in, and then what we can do is we can look at orders, or we can even bring several orders in. So if I wanted to just say bring all these orders in like this, and again, we can create our default would be production. We don't still have anything here. We can also do it directly from a purchase quote if we want. We can see here, if we look at purchase quote, the purchase orders, we'll do that. Again, we just don't have anything set up for production right now. Let's just create one real quick so we can see that process. We'll do another one here. We have it right here. Let's just do a quick, use an SAP function called data duplicate. We'll use the same customer again. I don't want to enter the order again. I'm just going to duplicate the same order. And let's put this at 15 and add it. Okay, so now you'll see that we have this order here, 318, in the system. Let's go back to the Procurement Confirmation Wizard. Let's just start it again. And again, let's just make it easy and select Earth Shaker, since we have that order for him. But again, we can, as you see, can do all of them. Actually, let's do this. Let's create 2 orders here. Let's call that order up. We'll do 2, why not? We'll do a data duplicate. And we had Earthshaker, we'll use norm. we'll just make this 10 for our dates. Let's just add this. So let's go through the procurement again. Let's just pull all. So we can, I want to show you how we can combine those two. Let's just go, say, from norm to Earthshaker. We can also do this. We can also select all and then click here to turn them off. And let's just select norms. We don't have that many customers, and we can do it this way too. Again, SAP gives you that flexibility of doing it either way. So now we're only looking at the norm. So we want this one here, which was 319, and we want, so we're going to highlight that, hold our control key down because we want that item, which is 319, and we also want 318. So you can see here, by holding the control key down, I selected sales order 318 and 319. Let's click next, and again, you can see them here. My default is production order. Again, I have the ability of making any changes if I want. Let's click next, next. Again, you can see the information here as we scroll through it. And you can see here how we created two production orders because we selected two different business partners. So you can see we have production order 61 and 62. If we go to our production orders, here you can see that we created production order 319 for that customer, and we have 318 for that customer. So again, we can track it that way. If these two sales orders were for the same customer, they would just combine the components. If they were the same item, they would combine the components. If they're different items, obviously you have to have a production order per item. In this case, we did per item per sales orders. And then the process is the same. We have our production orders. We would then release these, click update, and then complete our process. So that concludes today's webinar on SAP Business One's production. We are recording this webinar. It will be available on our website. You can visit us at www.mitchellgroup.com to view this plus our other webinar series. Again, we thank you for your time. And these will be available on our website. Just visit us at www.michellgroup.com to view this and all our other webinars. Once again, thank you very much.